Hello and welcome to this, the Thursday, or as we like to call it around here, the Friday Eve edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. The sun is back. It wasn't the rain that we expected yesterday, was it? My house, I think it rained for about 5 minutes, at least what felt like 5 minutes, and then it kind of ended. I know it wasn't what we had expected and what you had expected. I did hear, though, that places on the western side of the province received a little bit more rain, and of course that's good news for people in the Annapolis Valley and of course in Kings County that are dealing with wildfires. Great news yesterday, the Department of Natural Resources and the provincial government letting people who were evacuated because of the Lake George fire return to their properties beginning today. So that's good news. People are getting back into those properties after being evacuated. Fires, I think they listed it as being held, so that's a good sign as well as we continue to watch those fires. And, of course, Long Lake flared up a little bit yesterday. I was a little worried, right? Looking out the window, I got home yesterday, had a busy afternoon, getting ready for something we'll talk about a little bit later. And I came home and had supper and was looking out the window, and it was blowing pretty hard. We got a bunch of wind that came off of the ocean, and it was moving the trees around the neighborhood. And, of course, that a concern with the fires burning, because we know when we get these windy conditions, they tend to make these things come alive again. Looks like, at least at this point, that it didn't happen, but we will certainly keep an eye on that. And, again, great news for those people who have been impacted by that fire down at Lake George. They're back into their properties a little bit earlier today. Got a couple of emails from listeners from their cars, so then you can expect what they're talking about, because they're plugged up in traffic in the downtown peninsula area. I'm looking at the traffic map right now, and it looks like there's a big congestion area on Roby Street. I'm looking out the window of the studio here. I can see that. It looks like it's Quinpool coming in from the roundabout, and those roads that lead into that. Not really sure what's going on. We reached out to our traffic department to see if they can figure it out. It looks like, at least according to Google Maps, and take that for what it's worth, that there's some construction happening near that intersection, the willow tree there at those where those buildings are being built, and that might be responsible for it. But if you see something else out there and you are able to safely do so, reach out, let us know so we can let everybody know what's going on. I see traffic kind of building in different areas as people are trying to get around it, but we'll pass on any information that we get should it be available here. And who knows, it may just go away very quickly. That tends to be what happens. We get a jam and then things kind of just disappear naturally. Nothing happened in the world of sports last night, did it? The big news, of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs kicked off the 25-26 regular season, dropping their arch rival, the Montreal Canadiens, 5-2. Austin Matthews with a goal. Willie Nylander with a goal, a 3-point night, goal and 2 assists. I, of course, jest. How about those Toronto Blue Jays? Huh? 5-2 win over the Yankees last night to win the American League Division Series in 4 games. We now await the winner of the other division series between Seattle and Detroit. Now, just think about that for a second. If you follow the Blue Jays at all, you know that when the Jays travel to the West Coast to play in Seattle under normal conditions, this year a little different because of the tensions, but under normal conditions, that stadium is full of blue jerseys. It's almost like a home game for the Toronto Blue Jays. So if Seattle wins, I expect to see a lot of Jays fans in attendance. And Detroit, right across the river from Windsor, right? It's almost a home game for the Jays. So I think if fields play an advantage and crowds play an advantage, and if they do or not, I guess you can debate either side of that. It's still going to be good news for the Toronto Blue Jays. American League Championship Series kicks off on Sunday. You'll hear all the action live right here on 95.7 News Radio. When we get a time, we'll let you know. We haven't got a time yet. We just have the dates. The series is a 2-3-2 from what I can understand. It's a best of 7. 2 games Toronto, 3 games away, 2 games in Toronto. So we will bring you all that action live, and I'll get you the times once we know them here on the program. I hope that you can join us. Very quickly before we go to our next guest, interested in your thoughts on the series today, right? I'm interested to hear what you think about the Toronto Blue Jays. I know that there's some of you out there aren't sports fans and you kind of turn up your nose at it, but this is really Canada's team. It's Canada's only Major League Baseball team. I think you'll see the country unite, if they already haven't, behind the Blue Jays. So I'm very curious to see what you think, and we'll open up the phone lines after 11 o'clock today, and you can share your thoughts on the Blue Jays as part of our open hour. New reports out there. Canada's federal and provincial governments, the most successful and regional unrest is quietest when the different levels of government remain in their constitutional lanes, finds a new study published by the Fraser Institute. And we're very pleased to welcome to the program from the aforementioned Fraser Institute, Livio DiMatteo. Livio, how are you?
Good morning, Todd. How are you doing?
I am absolutely wonderful. Livio, I guess let's start with the study, and it's particularly pertinent here in Nova Scotia because we're seeing the provincial government maybe being a little more hands-on with the municipal government here.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you look at our Constitution, we often think that Canada has three levels of government: federal, provincial, and municipal. However, if you look at it carefully, when they drafted the Constitution and put it out in 1867, the powers of the provincial government included jurisdiction over municipal institutions. So, as the sort of phrase goes, the municipalities are creatures of the provinces. So the provinces have an awful lot of discretion in terms of how they organize municipal institutions and basically the kinds of policies that municipalities have to follow. I mean, on a day-to-day level, the province creates, I suppose, lanes for the municipalities and lanes for itself in provincial municipal relations. But the difference between Ottawa and the provinces and the municipalities is that when you look at those lanes between Ottawa and the provinces, those lanes, in a sense, have had the broad parameters and lines painted in the Constitution, whereas when it comes to the provinces and municipalities, the province paints the lines for the municipalities any way it wants.
Right. It's really interesting, and a lot of people are learning an awful lot about that dynamic now with some of the goings on here in Nova Scotia between the province and the city. But at the end of the day, I mean, the municipal council is a creature of the province. They essentially work for the minister, right?
Well, it's an interesting way to phrase it, but I guess you're absolutely right. I mean, here in Ontario, it's not that much different from Nova Scotia. The provinces basically set up the rules, and they negotiate the rules. Obviously, I mean, it's not a dictatorship, but when push comes to shove, the province pretty much gets its way.
At the federal level, Livio, of course, we see these jurisdictional spats happen quite frequently, and normally at the top of the list is the ongoing debate between the federal government and the government out in Alberta. Danielle Smith certainly has pushed back against the feds, I'll say.
Yeah, that goes in waves and cycles. I mean, from 1867, originally when they were negotiating the Constitution, it was supposed to be a relatively decentralized kind of affair. And then what happened, of course, is the U.S. Civil War was wrapping up, and there was a lot of concern about the U.S. at that time. I mean, some things never change in Canada, I suppose. And so we ended up with a constitution that was, overly centralized in terms of the powers of the federal government, and the provinces clawed back powers for the next 50 years. But then World War I, the Great Depression, World War II happened. And so the federal government basically, in times of national emergency, does tend to have the dominant sort of nation-building powers, and things centralized again. Then they began to decentralize after World War II, and the periods after World War II saw the greatest sort of angst between the federal and provincial government, both during eras of, I guess, what you would call resource development. The 70s, with the rise in the price of oil, there was a lot of, back and forth and push and shove between Ottawa and particularly Alberta. And since, I guess, over the last 10 years or so, the federal government has once again sort of reasserted forays into social policy. If you look, dental care, pharmacare, daycare, those are ostensibly all areas nominally under provincial jurisdiction. And so the federal government has set up new programs there. And the carbon tax is essentially, you can say it's taxation, and therefore the federal government is paramount because the federal government has basically the ability to levy taxes by any means whatsoever. But a carbon tax is also can overlap into resource policy. And so that's brought Ottawa into more disquiet with Alberta and Saskatchewan. So, traditionally the forays into social policy and things, Quebec used to be the sort of ignition point. Now it's, to Quebec you can add Saskatchewan and Alberta, particularly over the resource policy issues.
Livio, we know there's a housing crisis in the country. The federal government trying to solve it. Housing tends to fall into provincial jurisdiction. Is this one of these flashpoints when it comes to dealing with this crisis?
Yeah, housing's an interesting one. I mean, housing technically, the way the Constitution works, there's technically federal jurisdiction, provincial, and joint. And so housing nominally is sort of provincial, but it sort of evolved into joint. And the federal government actually used to do most of the housing policy up until the 1990s. I mean, most of the housing policy in the country tended to be at the federal level till then. And the federal government moved back, particularly in areas of social housing. And so the provinces, though, have never really filled the gap. And so, here we are 30, 40 years later, and, there's a housing crisis. So now the federal government is trying to do things with various types of financial incentives, and so are the provinces. And that actually has not been as much of an ignition point between Ottawa and the provinces. They actually seem to be cooperating relatively well, all things considered, on that file. The whole housing issue, though, is one of those really interesting ones because you've got, in a sense, the federal government controls immigration policy to a large extent. I mean, some aspects of immigration are shared, but in terms of letting people into the country, that's the federal government. The provinces control health and education. And so as the population has grown, that has come under strain. And then housing is, provincial, but the municipalities actually, at the behest of the provinces, do most of the zoning, the bylaws, the development issues. And so you've got basically three tiers involved in housing, but each sort of has different levers, and they have not done the best job coordinating over the last 20 years on that one.
Livio, with transfer payments, the have provinces versus the have not provinces, does that murky the waters between this provincial and federal relationship? We hear it all the time, particularly from out west.
Yeah. See, transfers have been there since day one. You go back to 1867. The federal government basically got direct and indirect taxation by any means whatsoever. The provinces technically only got direct taxes, that is, taxes on people. But of course, in 1867, there weren't a lot of taxes on people. There was no income tax. It was mainly commodity taxation or taxes on exports and imports. It was tariffs. So the provinces now have pretty much all the revenue sources except for tariffs. However, there's always been this gap from day one, and so the gap was filled right off the bat with what were known as the Dominion subsidies, the first transfer payment, and that's now evolved in the system we now have. So we have now the main transfer payments being the Canada Health Transfer, the Canada Social Transfer, and equalization. Equalization, in a sense, of the three programs is the one that deals with what you would call have or have not status if your province has below average fiscal capacity. And that comes with no strings attached. So in a sense, the only contention there tends to be how much are you getting, right, and whether you qualify for the payments or not. The other two are per capita grants. However, in a sense, they are for areas under provincial jurisdiction. And so, in a sense, there are strings attached, even though the federal government hasn't really enforced the strings. They transfer the money, but it's not as if the provinces then follow up, although they tend to largely spend it on health and social programs. I guess those programs might be better funded if the federal government simply converted them all into points like surrendered some of its income tax revenue and gave the block of direct income from income taxes to the provinces. So those would grow over time with income, and the provinces would basically have enhanced fiscal capacity and the revenue would grow as their economies grow. I guess if you are in a province with a weaker tax base, that might not be as lucrative as a grant. If your economy is growing slowly, those types of programs would not work as well. You might be happier with the cash grant. On the other hand, if you look at Atlantic Canada, there's been a lot of growth lately. I mean, there's been a lot of immigration into the region. Their economies have been growing more robustly, so this might be a time to consider that type of shift.
Livio, fascinating stuff. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, Todd. Anytime.
That is Livio Di Matteo, a senior fellow with the Fraser Institute, talking about how governments work better when they stay in their lanes. I think our next guest might have something to say about the provincial government staying in its lane as of late. We're going to stop, take a break. When we come back, District 5 Councillor, that's Sam Austin, will be your guest. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. Dan Alstrand along with you here. It is the Thursday edition. Hope you're having a fantastic day. We've been talking about this for the last couple of days, of course, after a council decision following a public hearing on Tuesday. Dartmouth Cove will be protected from infilling, at least at this point. The bylaw passes, but as we explained yesterday, it still has to go, which every bylaw has to go before the province, and it might be a couple of weeks before we see if they approve it or not. Very pleased to welcome to the program the councillor that was the driving force behind this. That's District 5's Sam Austin. Sam, how are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
I am not too bad. Let's start there. Your thoughts after this lengthy, my goodness, what has it been, 3 years since we've been talking about this?
Yeah, it's certainly gone on for quite a while, and I know the community has been very interested in this, as have the landowners, and it's good to get to the point of decision rather than just the kind of constant swirl on it.
Sam, watch the public hearing and the debate after. Your thoughts on the attendance and some of the things you heard from the public on this.
The public certainly showed up. There was also a lot of written feedback that came into us. Dartmouth knows how to write emails, and they know how to attend public meetings. And I think the public did a good job of making the overwhelming community concern on it very clear. And I think the kudos to the property owners too for also showing up to share their points of view.
They didn't come out and actually say it, but I think there's been lots of alluding to the fact that they may not be done with this and may pursue further action either through the courts. Lots of talk about spot zoning, that kind of thing. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I mean, such is the nature of political decisions. They're always challengeable to the courts. I mean, that's part of living in a free and democratic society and having a rule of law. So they're free to do that. It shouldn't shape whether, what a council decision is going to be. We should be making the best decisions we can with all the information we can. And then if we're challenged on them, then we're challenged on them. And that the chips fall where they do on that in court. It's probably not the end of the story. The folks that own the one property lot have a track record of litigation. But in terms of spot zoning, this affected 9 property lots in Dartmouth Cove. Certainly the ARCP one was the big trigger for public concern. But there was 8 other lots that were also affected, and we did have objections from 3 other property owners in the Cove. So the idea that this is just spot zoning, I mean, it applies to every lot in Dartmouth Cove.
Sam, I've been doing this a while. I know you have as well. And this over the last, 3 or 4 months, I've seen something different happening at City Hall, and by that I mean questions are being asked about from the public, and now from some councillors at the meeting on Tuesday night about what the changes that the province is bringing in are going to have on these decisions. Do you think that the province is going to accept this bylaw, or are we going to hear more from the minister on it?
Well, I think they should. I mean, they accepted the exact same provisions when it applied to the Northwest Arm, so there's already a precedent of the province accepting this sort of planning approach. In terms of impact on housing, these if infilled in Dartmouth Cove, the lot that's in the most contention would have park zoning. It has no road access. The process to go through to develop that, I mean, you're talking like up to a decade, right? This is not going to be housing that is in any way impactful on any of the housing supply considerations right now. So if they do overrule us, I mean, that is the minister's prerogative. It has always existed in the bylaws as far back as I know. But it's generally been a formality, not something that they've actually exercised. And I would want to see, well, they'd have to have a darn good reason, and I really don't see one.
Sam, switching gears a little bit on you here, we heard on Friday that HRM is going to be under one of these special development zones or whatever the official title is. I saw a quote from you in the paper said you didn't know about it until the media started asking you questions about it. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on this and if what does this mean for development moving forward?
Yeah, so council wasn't in the loop on this at all. My heads up that it was happening was Jen Taplin with the Herald texting me to ask for comments. So, that's not a good spot to be starting off on. My feeling on this is, of course, this is really about that the province rejected, speaking of bylaw precedents, right?
Right.
They rejected our regional plan when it went before the minister, and there was a whole bunch of stuff in the regional plan that was enabling development, and they rejected the regional plan mainly because of concerns about increasing watercourse setbacks from 20 meters to 30 meters and our requirement to have EV charging in new development. And so they rejected it, but in doing so, all these other things that were waiting on the regional plan also got rejected. So this temporary planning order that covers HRM is really about undoing the kind of what I think was a mistake in rejecting the regional plan in the first place.
Yeah, that was my next question. Is this the minister fixing the big boo-boo that he made when he rejected that plan?
I think it is, but I think the minister might have a different take, but to me, that's what this is really about, because I don't think they really understood the full consequences of rejecting the whole thing.
Sam,
it's fine. It's fine to disagree, right? Like the province and the municipality, we're going to have disagreements, but I just wish things could be more collaborative, right? Rather than rejecting the whole thing, we could have adjusted the two provisions in there that were causing the most concern.
Sam, we're almost out of time. The province wouldn't pass the Coastal Protection Act, downloaded that onto the municipalities. Part of the regional plan was dealing with coastline. That got rejected. Where are we at with protecting coastlines? Is this still a big question?
Well, I think it is. I mean, they rejected our increasing setbacks from 20 meters to 30 meters, so that got rejected. And now the minister will have this decision about Dartmouth Cove. So if you start to kind of backtrack it, it's like, okay, well, do you actually want us to do coastal protection or not, right? If everything we do that involves the coast just keeps getting rejected, I don't know that the message there is actually that we want anything to happen. So we'll have to wait and see.
Sam, very quickly, and if I ambush you on this one, I apologize, but I think it was a couple meetings ago, the number 10% popped out when it came to the budget, and budget deliberations are beginning. So I'm hearing anywhere between $40 and $50 million in savings. Can we find enough this year?
Oh, we haven't even started the deliberations yet, so I don't know. I will say this. Politics is a difficult business. No one likes to pay more, but also no one likes their services cut. And typically, people in government, you've seen this script a couple of times over in different places, people like to talk about efficiency, because if you talk about efficiency, you can kind of try and talk about cutting things without actually cutting anything that's going to impact people, or about raising taxes. But the reality is, generally, we're not going to find enough to efficiency our way out of this. We're either going to have to go find more revenue, or we're going to have to impact, or we're going to have to cut things, and they will be cutting things that people notice. And so either of those choices is not good. So it's not going to be an easy budget year.
Sam, I appreciate your time.
Yes, anytime.
That is Councillor Sam Austin from District Number 5. 10% is a huge increase in taxes. Now, I will agree, they haven't started even looking at the budget yet. The calendar is set, but the deliberations haven't begun. They normally find savings, but $40 to $50 million has to come out of the budget. If you were a councillor, where would you cut it? Something you might want to answer when we open up the phone lines in about 30 minutes' time. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We are back after the news. It's a topic of discussion now at water coolers, in lunchrooms, at the coffee shops, if you can afford a cup. It's not what's going on the weekend, or are you planning a vacation, or whatever else. It has become a true conversation between family members and even friends about how expensive things are these days, right? It's not just a small segment of the population at all that are dealing with these kind of impacts on their bottom line. Just take HRM, for example, right? We're looking at over the next couple of years, we're looking at a 4% increase or more in power rates, a 36 or 38% increase in water rates, and now we're hearing from the city that it's looking to save between $40 and $50 million. If it doesn't, taxes are going to go up this year on top of whatever the assessed value goes up. It seems that each time I open a newspaper, I'm digging deeper and deeper and deeper into my wallet. And let's face it, most of us don't have a lot of room left in that wallet to dig. New data came out earlier this week that really kind of put things into perspective for me. And it reads that 50% of the people that took part in this survey, quarter over quarter, 50, 1 out of 2, are within $200 of being broke every month. Think about that. 1 out of every 2 people you see walking down the street are living paycheck to paycheck and are very close to being broke. And that's in Atlantic Canada. Please welcome to the show to give us a little bit of perspective on this, a local licensed insolvency trustee with MMP Limited. That's Tina Powell. Tina, how are you?
Good, Dan. Thank you. How are you?
I'm well. That's a sobering number, isn't it?
It certainly is, but not surprising. Just a trip to the grocery store will put things in perspective, just how bad it is out there for many Atlantic Canadian households.
And it's not like there's more money coming in, right? You know, some people are lucky enough on an annual basis to see a small increase in their salaries, 2%, 2.5%, 3%, or whatever. But a lot of people aren't, and are having to face just really impossible decisions in order to make their paycheck hit the end of the month.
Exactly. The results of the latest Consumer Debt Index that was conducted by Ipsos on behalf of MMP shows that, about half of Atlantic Canadians are in significant, of those that were surveyed are, in significant, a vulnerability situation, because when you have less than $200 from being able to, meet your debt and your expenses. And many, there's 1/3 of those surveyed have, already have cut everything from their monthly budget that they could possibly cut. So they're already, having to decide, are they going to reduce their utility expenses or their grocery shopping. So that's never a good situation, and it just highlights just how vulnerable many households are.
34% year over year, a 6-point increase. 1/3 of respondents say they've reduced utility consumption. That must be turning the heat down or turning the lights off, and that only can go so far.
Exactly. And, now that we're getting into the colder season, there's a lot of seasonal costs that many households will be facing, increased heating costs, winter tires, outfitting your family for the winter. So there's many households just don't have the extra wiggle room in their budget to accommodate these costs.
And 24% of the respondents say that they're trying to eat less to save money. But as you said at the beginning, we continually see a rise in prices at the grocery store.
Exactly. As you know, many people have already, according to the results of this latest survey, have reduced all discretionary expenditures from their budget, and now they've resorted to, coupon cutting and doing whatever they can to reduce their grocery bill each month. And it's not easy with the rising cost of food.
Tina, obviously, people when the money doesn't make it to the end of the month, look at other sources to supplement their income, and most of the time that's a credit card, but that can get into a dangerous circle as well.
Exactly. We often see people who are supplementing their income by using credit, and this is a vicious cycle to get into, because at some point, even households who were once in a solid position, if they're going down that path, there's going to be less money for the necessities, as more money is going to be going to debt repayment. And that's where talking to a licensed insolvency trustee can come into play. We can review their financial situation, offer options that they may not be aware of to help get them back on the right track to financial stability.
That debt can really be an albatross hanging around one's neck, because it just doesn't ever go away unless you work out a plan with somebody who knows what they're doing.
Exactly. If you don't have a solid plan to pay down your debt, it's always a good idea to talk to a licensed insolvency trustee to see what options are available.
What kind of options are there available, Tina? We see the ads on TV, obviously, and we hear about these things, but you can and your colleagues can certainly find ways to maybe lighten up those payments so that we don't have to make the decision about either heating the house or having dinner tonight.
Exactly. So for some households, it's maybe looking at some equity, having assets that can be used to pay down this high interest debt. And there's also like an informal settlement with the creditors. But for many, there's still formal options that it's like a consumer proposal, which is a debt settlement on your unsecured debt with the creditors. Or as a last resort, there's always a bankruptcy, which can help people get out from under that mountain of debt.
It's a big, scary word, bankruptcy, isn't it?
It is. But for many, it's also a lifeline as well. And there's no shame in seeking financial assistance. We're here to help people, and we'd like to guide them through these options to get them back on solid financial footing.
Tina, if somebody wants some more information or perhaps is in a situation that they'd like some advice on, what's the best way to get help?
Sure. Licensed insolvency trustees are the only federally regulated professionals who can provide access to all options. If somebody is looking for some debt advice, we offer a free confidential consultation at MMP. They can reach us at 310-DEBT or by visiting us at mnpdebt.ca.
Tina, I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Dan.
Tina Powell is a local licensed insolvency trustee with NMP Limited. It's just an impossible situation. And I've said it countless times now here on the program that in today's world with the cost of living, the rent, the mortgage rate, the cost at the grocery store, and I'm thinking more along the lines of, and it happens to everybody, and I'm not trying to single out single people, but it's got to be just near impossible to be a single person or have a single income for a parent these days to be able to afford things. And people that they're listening to us right now are going to be faced when the heating season starts, which is, by the look of the temperature today, is going to happen this week or next. To have to make that impossible decision, it's just terrible, and it can't be easy to have to decide whether or not you're going to pay the heat bill this month or you're going to pay the grocery bill. I can't even think it. We're going to stop, take another break. When we come back, Sirens for Life. Halifax first responders getting stuck for a good cause. Krista Hanikowski, a community development manager at Canadian Blood Services, will be your guest. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We are back in minutes.
Axe.
No secret around here that I'm a big fan of first responders. They keep us safe. They keep the streets safe. They help us in our time of need. They're there for us when we need them most, and they continually do great work, not only on their day job when they're doing all the things I just listed, but they try to make their communities a better place too. And this latest campaign is just a shining example of that. First responders in Halifax partnering with Canadian Blood Services for the Sirens for Life Challenge, encouraging the community to donate blood and plasma to help save lives. The kickoff goes today, and what it is that we'll be doing this right through until December 24th. And it includes fire, police, other emergency service teams, and raising awareness about the importance of both blood and plasma donations. Very pleased to welcome to the program today to tell us a little bit about this, Canadian Blood Services Community Development Manager, Krista Hanikowski. Krista, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
This is also a kickoff to your Get Together or Come Together campaign, correct?
That's right, our Fall Get Together campaign. So we had a lot of excitement around the blood donor clinic today. We had fire trucks, police cars, and a whole bunch of first responders here ready to help raise the awareness and get our Sirens for Life campaign kicked off.
How desperate a need is there for blood?
So there's a pretty big need. The thing about blood is that there's a constant need. It's only got a shelf life of 41 days, so we need a steady, constant supply of donors coming in. And the need for blood and other blood products is rising, and the only way we're going to meet that is to get more people into the door donating on a regular basis. It's
the gift of life, as they call it.
That's right. And this is just a fun way that people can help support our first responders. So there's a team for Halifax Fire, there's a team for RCMP, there's a team for EHS. So anybody, you don't have to be your first responder to join those teams. If you just join their team and come make a donation, it's going to be one to support whichever team you want to support. And
then they get a great big trophy at the end, right?
That's right. In the past few years, the RCMP has won. So there was a lot of chirping going on already this morning that Fire suggesting that they really want to come back and beat them this year. So they were looking for new members to join their team, that's for sure.
Krista, tell me about the process. How long does it take? And the all-important question, does it hurt?
Absolutely. So I always tell people to plan to spend an hour at the donor center, but when you get here, you'll meet with a nurse, they'll test your iron, they'll go through any prescriptions, travel, make sure it's safe for you to give, safe for somebody to receive. And that takes about half hour, and then it's only about 5 to 10 minutes of needle and arm donation, and then 15 minutes of juice and cookies.
Because my favorite part is the juice and cookies. That's by far my favorite part.
Plan to spend the hour, but it's only going to be that 5 to 10 minutes of needle and arm donation. And I always tell people, it's totally normal to be scared, especially your first time. Our staff here are amazing. They're going to take great care of you. Let them know you're a little nervous. They're going to walk you through it. If it's your first time, they're going to give you a really cool first-time donor sticker to wear on your shirt so that everyone knows it's your first time, and they're going to walk you through the process, and they're going to take great care of you.
Krista, do you need to make an appointment? Can you drop in? How does that work?
So I recommend people make an appointment just so that we're make sure and ready to service you the second you walk in. But you don't need to. A lot of our days lately are only half full of appointments, which is really sad. So we need more people. Just keep in mind we have a variety of hours. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're open afternoon to evening, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're morning to afternoon. But the easiest way to make an appointment is to download our Give Blood app. Go to blood.ca, or you can call our number 888-2donate. You can book yourself an appointment. We're open 6 days a week here at Bears Road, so tons of appointments, and we definitely need the support of the community right now.
Krista, who can donate? Can young people donate? Can older or elderly people donate? Can seniors donate? How does it work?
That's a great question. I always advise people that a lot of things have changed over the years in terms of eligibility, and older folks is definitely one of them. So there is no upper age limit on who can donate. It just goes based on general health. So you have to be 17 years of age or older. And when you show up and make your appointment, make sure you bring a government-issued ID for your first time. After you do that, we'll give you a donor card and you'll be able to buzz and let yourself in. But first time, make sure that you have some ID on you, and make sure you have lots to eat or drink. But you will also get tons of snacks here. We do snacks before and after, so you won't leave hungry.
The cookies are great.
That's right, yeah.
Krista, it's going on today down there at the Bears Road location. Make an appointment if you can and get out there and get stuck for a good cause.
Absolutely. Come and see us during their fall get-together. It's a perfect way to get some of your crew and bring them in to come and donate and really experience what you get when you give.
Thanks, Krista. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Krista
Hanikowski is with Canadian Blood Services. A busy day down there. Can you imagine the emergency services are a competitive bunch, to say the least, and I would imagine that they're going to have some fun with this. And again, let's not lose sight of the importance of donating blood. If you've ever had to have a transfusion or have ever had to have somebody else's blood, it can be, and most of the time is life-saving. So I encourage you, if you haven't for a long time, if you haven't ever before, or if you're one of those people that donates all the time, get down there and take part in this event. And let's fill up those banks. We're going to stop here right away and take a break for the news after 11 o'clock. Of course, we're going to open up the telephone lines for the open hour. A couple of things I'm curious as to what your thoughts are. We heard earlier from Sam Austin about the upcoming budget deliberations. I'm hearing 10% is the starting point. Now, I know that we always start high, and council, when they go through this process, manage to find efficiencies and savings, and that number usually gets whittled down. We saw it last year. I think it was just over 7, and it ended up being at 0. We still paid more in tax because our assessments went up, but there's usually some savings to be found. But I've had a couple of conversations with councillors when I got that number off of a meeting a few weeks ago, and they don't seem as optimistic this time around. And I'm hearing that in order to reduce that amount of money, we're looking at anywhere between $40 to $50 million out of the budget. I'm curious to your thoughts as to where you think we can trim that fat. Is there a place that you think that we can save that kind of money so that we don't see a tax increase this year? That's something you might want to talk about here on the program. And, of course, the Toronto Blue Jays, OMG, right? I wasn't as confident going into last night's game. I really wasn't. And the reason why, and I think I said it on the air yesterday, was that it was going to be one of these so-called bullpen games. There wasn't going to be a starting pitcher. The Blue Jays bullpen has been suspect. Is that the right term? Through much of the season. But boy, did they prove me wrong last night. It was an absolute masterclass in using the bullpen to pitch the Yankees. I think they looked as if they were confused most of the game. And the Jays ended up on top. Now, there was a nail-biter or two in there. There's no doubt. There always is. It's a lot easier to listen to or to watch a baseball game when you're up by 12 runs. But at the end of the day, they got it done. They got it done in the Bronx. Now they're going to return home. The American League Championship Series begins on Sunday. We don't know who yet. It could be the Seattle Mariners. Could be the Detroit Tigers. But I think both of those matchups are good for the Jays. We know the team travels well to Seattle. We know they travel well to Detroit. It's right across the river from Windsor. I want to hear your thoughts on the Toronto Blue Jays season and what you expect to see in this ALCS, the American League Championship Series. And can we say it? Can we say that there's a good chance that the Blue Jays are going to go to the World Series? I don't want to jinx things, but I'm curious as to what your thoughts are. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Your thoughts on the Jays, and I'm curious to hear from y'all about the budget and the city budget, the municipal budget. I don't even want to think of a world where I see a 10% increase in tax plus an increase in my property assessment plus a 4% increase in my Nova Scotia power bill next year, a 30-some-odd% increase in my water bill. It's getting darn expensive to live here in HRM if it's not already too expensive. $40 to $50 million needs to come out of that budget just to get things at zero. If you were sitting around the council table, where do you cut? 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255, the open hour, after the news.
Facts.
Welcome back. Dan Alstrand here. It is Thursday, or as we like to call it, Friday Eve. It is the open hour. This is your chance to talk about whatever it is on your minds. And the lines are open. The number is 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. A couple of suggestions that I have thrown out there for you that you might want to comment on. Of course, the Toronto Blue Jays advancing to the American League Championship Series last night. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the Jays and what you think their chances are as we move now from a best-of-5 to a best-of-7 series against either the Seattle Mariners or the Detroit Tigers. That will begin on Sunday. And also, and the number isn't kind of official yet, but during a debate over something, I think it was the budget calendar at City Council a few weeks ago, the CEO mentioned a 10% number. Now, I've asked a few councillors about that number, and of course, it has become tradition here in HRM that we start with a high number on the budget, and then it gets whittled down, right? Councillors sharpen their pencils, as they say, and that number gets reduced significantly, if not reduced to zero. But this time around, I've asked a few councillors about that number, and I think the dollars are somewhere in the $40 to $50 million range. And you heard Councillor Austin earlier saying that there's just not a lot of those quote-unquote efficiency savings anymore. So now they're going to have to start to dig into things that we have come to expect, like services, like lawn cutting, and those kind of things. We often criticize council for spending here on this program a lot. So here's your opportunity. They're listening. I can tell you they are. When the budget deliberations begin, where should regional council start to cut to reduce this tax load? Because as I said before the break, if they do nothing and it sits at 10%, don't forget that's the rate, right? Your assessment likely goes up, so you're going to pay more than that in tax. If they don't cut that, we get that in Nova Scotia Power increase that is being bantered about, plus that increase from Halifax Water. It's a triple whammy. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Let's begin with Stephen this morning. Stephen, how are you?
Hi.
What's on your mind?
Well, the thing that's on my mind is you've cut in this province, Nova Scotia, we have no, you're cutting all the business. We have no steel plants anymore.
Right.
We're getting rid of the lumber companies.
Mm-hmm.
The only ones that are getting the big increases are the teachers, the nurses, the government workers, and we gave minimum wage. What did they get? Maybe less than 1%?
Yeah, 16 and change now. Yep.
Where are we going here? It seems to me that we're in a socialist province here. And then anybody that says anything about the environment, the professors are jumping on it because they're the ones that are getting paid all the money. So, of course, they're going to say something. Like, this has got to change, because when these apartment buildings are all done in Halifax,
Yep.
where are all the workers going to go? There's no manufacturing in this province at all. You've cut it all out.
So you support the Premier's plan to open up resource development, I take it?
Of course I do.
Right.
Who's going to pay for the teachers and the nurses? The guy at Tim Hortons?
Right.
You know, it's just out of whack right now. Everybody's getting 20% increases except the people that are in the trades. Those jobs are not getting 20% increases.
I didn't
and
get a 20%.
You know that for a fact.
I didn't get a 20% increase. I did not get a 20%
No, you
increase.
didn't.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'm just saying, everybody's getting these big increases in their pay. They're all looking for these huge increases, and then the little taxpayers got to pay for it. That's why the grocery stores, people can't afford anything, because they're paying the taxes. It's a lose situation here. We need to manufacture things in this province, period. That's all I have to say.
Appreciate it, Stephen. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Stephen's not the first person to raise that here on this open hour. And with the construction boom that's underway, I think that I don't think he's too far off. When that's done, then what, right? Awful lot of opposition when the uranium file got kicked around. That turned up to be a bust on the province's part because they didn't get anybody to bid on it. And most of the people that I've spoken with regards to that say they won't bid on it because the environmental restrictions are too large. We know the Premier is resting his laurels as of late on this offshore wind project and selling power from Nova Scotia generated on the Scotian Shelf and other areas. I think there's 4 spots to jurisdictions to the west. But does that improve the tax base as much? Do taxes drop because we're selling all of that power? There's a lot of questions there, right? 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. We welcome Chris to the show. Chris, how are you?
I'm good, Dan. How are you?
Good. Where are you cutting the budget?
And I called you Dan today, and I must apologize for saying Todd the other day.
I'm used to it now.
old habits die hard.
They do. Where do you cut on the budget, Chris?
Oh, well, your last caller had a good point about the wages to union and government and stuff. We as a province with an average income of $40,000, $50,000, whatever it is, family income per year, we can't afford to pay all of our elected officials and all the government people and the big unions. We can't afford to pay them double or more to what we're making. Right. It just doesn't make sense. But as far as cutting the budget, well, top of my list is bike lanes, speed bumps, curb bump outs, electric buses. Don't even consider a ferry service from Bedford at this time, especially electric friggin' ferries. Don't even talk about a damn stadium. Forget the forum renovation, $120 million or more. Forget that stuff. This council has not tried. I thought the last council was bad, the worst I'd ever seen. These guys are the worst. They are the absolute worst, without question. They don't even try to save money. When was the last time someone representing HRM and us, the taxpayers, because guys, don't forget, you people that work within council and within HRM, you work for us. We are your bosses. So reflect that when you make your decisions. Council has never, ever, and no one that I'm ever aware has ever gone to a supplier and tried to hammer out a better deal on procurement of goods and services. That's another place to start, or to try and save some money. This urban greenway they're talking about, which essentially, guys, for anybody that's not following it, the urban greenway, this plan that they call Urban Greenway Extension and Active Transportation Connections to Point Pleasant Park, fancy term for essentially bike lanes. Here we are, these bike lanes again. They've got 5 options before people, and by the way, the last supposed public engagement session is today from 4:30 p.m. until 8 p.m. at the Barbara Holmes Warming Center, Daphne Center Arena, St. Mary's University. If you live in District 7 or you live anywhere in the city and you're concerned about this overspending, go to that meeting and at least get your voice heard if you can. that urban greenway, they've given us 5 basic choices as to the pathway that it's going to go.
But no dollars attached to it, which is bizarre.
No, exactly. That's the whole point. I spoke to a consultant on it that's working for them. No idea. I spoke to an HRM staff member. No idea. And the staff member was at least candid enough with me to basically state no one on city council and no one on city staff has any, and I quote, has any idea what any of these is going to cost. The consultant said to me, well, basically you can kind of look at it and make up your own mind as to which one you think is the most expensive. Well, gee whiz, I mean,
right.
isn't that a great way to be running projects? I mean, Dan, this has gone way, way, way out of control. We need a mechanism in place. If there's not one now, I don't know what one it is, but we need a mechanism in place where we, the taxpayer, can get rid of council members, or the mayor for that matter, if we're not happy with the decisions they're making, more than waiting another 3 years to get an election and hopefully at that point get rid of them. This has gone so far out of control, I don't know where to turn back with it, or if they're even going to be able to. And I predicted this every single year, Dan. They come up with this thing, oh, we need 7%, we need 8%, 8.5% last year. Now we need 10%. And they keep getting away with it, and every year they keep asking for more and more to justify more and more. People out there, listen, anybody paying taxes, and that's you tenants too, if you're listening here. You pay property taxes. You just don't get a separate bill for them. I was in the rental business for 35 years, and as my costs, including property taxes, go up, they're passed along to the tenant. That's the way business works. So if tenants think they're not paying property taxes, they are, and they should have a say in this as well. Just because you don't receive a property tax bill, a piece of paper from the city a couple times a year, doesn't mean you're not paying property taxes. We in the South End District 7 have no representation whatsoever, as far as I'm concerned, from our MLA or from our councillor, neither of which live in our district, by the way, and I think that's a very, very important thing. Last night there was in the North End, I think Virginia Hinch and the mayor had a town hall meeting. Those people are so lucky. They've got a counselor that will actually meet with them. I wish we had one that would meet with us and listen to us, but we don't. I don't know if she's ever been in the South End or not, for God's sake. This is ridiculous. But, Dan, the places to and there's a lot of little things they could start cutting. One, and I mean no disrespect for anybody when I say this, the gay pride crosswalks. We don't need to keep repainting them at a cost of $1,700 per crosswalk, not per intersection, but per crosswalk. Wrap your head around that, guys. And our counselors will say, oh, that only costs $100,000. Oh, that's only $50,000. Oh, that's only $1 million. Well, you start adding those numbers up, and I'll bloody well bet you can find $40 or $50 million in savings. Guys, stick to what we need. To hell with all these things that we don't need, these nice-to-haves. It would be so good to have this and make us a world-class city. If we're bankrupt and people are living in poverty, we're not a world-class city. Stick with what we need, and the hell with the nice-to-haves.
Chris, appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, Dan.
Have a good day. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. The open hour continues after the break. Welcome back. This is the open hour, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Lots of calls. Let's get right back to the phones and welcome David to the program. David, how are you?
Good. How are you this morning?
Good. What's on your mind?
Hats off to Chris. I like hearing his comments. I think he hits all the reality points. He is so right. Right down to the, no disrespect, but the crosswalks. $1,700 to paint a crosswalk. I think it would be interesting to find out if you could get our hands on the tenders or tenders awarded from HRM, which I think we can on the internet, even on their site, Halifax Municipality, how much money is being chucked out here. It's ridiculous. And I think we should change councillors on the hot seat to maybe councillors in a train wreck. Because listening to them on Monday, there were some really, really educated people calling. And that sitting in that seat. Mm-hmm. People that call this show are pretty educated, Dan, and are pretty knowledge of what's going on.
And they're engaged, which is fascinating, and it's wonderful to listen to.
It is. It's wonderful to listen to a gentleman like Chris, a lady who called on Monday about the Cove.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that call? How educated she was. And the counselors were like deer in headlights, like had no idea how to answer. And so I think what's happening here is the people, the residents around here are starting to wake up, are starting to really take notice. And I assume you're seeing it on your program with new callers, with people who are calling that are making sense. And, I'm frustrated too. I live down here in end of Eastern Passage, call myself a Dartmouthian, but I look across the harbor and see the explosion over there. And that's one very good point by the gentleman who called. What happens when all the buildings are done? Right. Where do all the workers go? The drywallers, the tapers, the painters, the electricians, the plumbers. Where are they going to go when this explosion stops? And you know what? It's going to stop.
Oh, it has to, right? I mean, we're eventually going to get to a point where we have too much supply, right?
Yes, and I think right now, Dan, it's starting to slow down, but no one will admit it. I think when you look at the buildings going up, and then before they used to be 25%, maybe even 50% vacancy ready to move in. Now I don't think it's that high. I think it's lower. We're not being told that. And remember this. Here's a point. And Chris made a good point about the tenants. The HRM council sitting around there, sitting in their big building down there, are making money just like us as paying property taxes off the tenants. So every one of those buildings that are built there, they're making a shitload of money off them. Of course they would want them built. Of course they're in bed with the developer. Because do you think for a minute that HRM is not making any money off any of those new buildings?
They certainly absolutely are. There's transfer taxes and fees and permits and all that stuff. I get it. Yeah, I agree with you. Yep.
Yeah, I get it. I get it too. And that's exactly what they're doing. And it's in closing here, I'm going to say,
sure,
if you want to cut costs in HRM, if they really want to look at it and say cut costs, look inside your own interior walls. Look inside your employees you have with HRM, the money you spend on trucks, the money you spend on new vehicles to look good, the money you spend on new buses. Look interior, because that's where the money's going. And the people out here, the regular blue-collar people, me, you, half the people that call your program are suffering from it. I think it's about time they look in the mirror. And from hearing your show every day and hearing the people that call, once again, we're starting to wake up and pay attention. And it is really getting to be a disaster around here.
David, appreciate it.
Thank you.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Just a quick note. There's lots of passion. I get it. A lot of people are angry. A lot of people are, engaged in what's going on, and particularly with council. But I will just ask you to mind the language. That's what I'll say. 902-405, not to stifle your debate, but profanity isn't welcome here. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Let's go to Joe. Joe, how are you?
I'm about as well as the last time you talked to me. And Dan, thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
But that young man that just reiterated what I wanted to say about people like Chris and Gloria and Nicole, we need more intelligent people to engage in these conversations and hold the council feet to the fire. I think the issue is we don't have a cohesive, intelligent, well-run council. It just ain't happening. And I think a lot of the points that Chris brought up were dead spot on. I'm a retired guy, and I live in an apartment building in Halifax, and it is horribly run, really poorly run. And the councillors seem to think that if they talk about things, just talk. I said to you the other day, talk doesn't solve problems. At some point, let's get off our ass, stop talking, and start fixing these problems. There's been an explosion of building going on, and it's caused, at the expense of everything else, it's caused total chaos in the city. Traffic.
Saw it this morning, right? There was a big tie-up downtown this morning.
Yeah, it's just become chaotic, and these councillors they sort of act as though they're looking out out their back porch cottage window at the tide coming in. Things are really bad here. And I'll tell you, I'm not worried. I'm scared as hell about what's going to happen. This isn't their responsibility, by the way, about this cap on rents going up in 2027. It really disturbs me because in my 80s, I don't want to have to start searching for a place to live. So we need Chris. You keep calling in and give him help. And the young fellow, I don't know, what was the young fellow's name that just commented before me?
I think his name was David.
David. And Gloria, keep up the work. Gloria's 94. She's running out of steam.
No, she's not. She's as spry as she ever has been.
No, she's not. Wake up. You sound like one of the counselors. She's doing the best she can. She's doing the best she can. She's doing a hell of a lot more than the rest of us are doing. And Nicole is another one. Keep these callers on the line and cut them more slack, give them more time. And don't pay too much attention to idiots like me. Thanks for your time, Dan.
All right, Joe, 902-405-6000. Wow. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. The open hour is going to continue. Lines are busy. There's a few there if you want to get in on the conversation. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We're back after the news. All right, welcome back. It's the Thursday or the Friday Eve edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. It's the open hour. There are a couple of lines open if you want to get on to join the conversation. It's as easy as dialing the number, 902-405-6000, or if you like, 1-877-801-8255. Lots of discussion today on this potential for a significant increase in municipal taxes this time around. If you're just joining us, a couple of weeks ago during one of the deliberations at council, I think it was to set the calendar for the budget. Somebody in the finance department, might have been even the CAO, I don't remember, I'm taxing my memory going back a month, but said that the number this time around is around 10%. I've spoken to a number of councillors. We spoke with Councillor Sam Austin earlier today, who said that, and I asked him, and he said, well, you know, it could be that much. It could be anywhere from $40 to $50 million. And my question to you today is where do you cut it? Where do you cut that fat, so to speak? 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Gloria, you're getting lots of love on the show today.
Oh, am I? Good. I need lots of love. But just so that people don't think I'm losing it, Dan, I'll tell you what I did this summer. I made strawberry, raspberry jam, grape jelly, mustard pickles, pickled beets, chow, made my 18th quilt in 24 months.
Wow.
And did 14 interviews for my television show. Not bad for a 94-year-old.
Well, you know, you got 5 or 10 minutes to call the talk show too, right?
Yeah, I like calling the talk show. I'll begin by saying that Chris speaks for all the frustrated taxpayers out there who don't call in, but Chris he knows what's going on. He's knowledgeable, and he speaks for the frustrated ones. As a counselor for not only a counselor, as a politician, an alderman, a mayor, and a counselor for 23 and a half years, the advice that I can give this council, and I've been saying it all along, Dan, first of all, listen to the people who elected you. They decide what they want. You do not have your own agenda, and live within your means.
Right.
You know, you had a great one on there, Sam Austin, who really believes in living within the means. He just voted to spend $676,000 to turn Slater Street into a bike lane. And he talks about saving money. Joke. You know, it's pathetic. It seems that we can do anything we want to do. You know, in your own household, Dan, and I know in mine, you budget, you do what you can afford to do.
Right.
We're not doing that. I was over there for 11 budgets. I voted for one. The other 10, I felt we could save more money. And it's time council started listening. And as far as going to the green, whatever it is, consultation, I saved my breath to cool my porridge. The best time for consultation is when they come around to your door trying to get elected. That's the consultation. As Austin said, when the people are upset on Slater Street, they knew I was all for bike lanes, and they voted for me. So there's a lesson. Learn a lesson. The other thing,
Sure.
Todd, no, not Todd,
Nope.
Dear Todd. The other thing, Dan, I guess we can stop talking about the province overstepping their boundaries after I listened to that guest you had on.
Right.
I think they're doing what they're there to do. So we can stop talking about that. And as far as Austin saying they didn't know, well, on the council meeting the other night,
Yes.
they talked that staff has been dealing with the province.
Right.
Staff and the province have been dealing together on this, and he doesn't know anything about it. So, there's another point. But anyway, Dan, it's going to be, we can't afford another tax increase.
No.
And now the deed transfer tax is going up.
Double.
And a 700,000 home is a luxury.
Yep.
There's a little prefab over here on the street over from me, 440,000.
It's crazy, isn't it?
So 700 isn't a luxury.
No.
They want to raise that, but they want to take the cap off.
Right.
Cap off assessment, which would mean a lot of people couldn't afford to live in their houses any longer. It's all about where can they find money. It's never about where can we save. What can we stop? What can we afford to do? Never. So, it's a little late for everybody to be complaining now. They put them in there, and they're there, unfortunately, for 4 years. So that's all we can do is complain, Dan, because we're not going to be able to make any changes.
Gloria?
So anyway, that's my story for today.
I always appreciate your calls.
Keep giving me the loving.
Fair enough. Have a good day.
Because I'm so thin-skinned.
Yeah. That I will absolutely dispute. Gloria, appreciate it.
Have a great weekend.
902-405-6000 or 177-8, or rather 818-778-01-8255. Let's go back to the lines and welcome David to the program. David, how are you?
Good morning, Counselor Dan Olstrand.
Oh, no. Goodness, no. This is enough of a job.
It's got a nice ring to it.
Oh, no. Anyway, what's on your mind?
Okay, number one, I was wondering actually, before we get to that, congratulations on your award.
My award? Oh, yeah, that
award.
one. Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that. We did win
Every caller that called in, there was a few, but not too many knew about the award.
Okay.
And number two, I was wondering where your big celebration is going to be going on.
On Friday, that's tomorrow, we're going to be down at the Westin, and we'll be down there from 10 until 1 doing the show live.
Is that the one that's down on Wilmore Road?
No, it's on the Halifax side, right by the train station.
The train station, okay. Is there any bus to go down that way?
Oh, I'm sure there's several.
Okay, I might be there.
Peace and Friendship Park is the park across the street from it. It's almost down by the old Seaport Market.
Oh, okay. And number two, checking up on both Todd and Bill's condition.
I haven't heard anything about Bill, but the last I heard he was in the hospital, and we, of course, are going to send our love to him and hope for a speedy recovery. And I spoke with Todd last night after the Yankees lost, and he's doing okay.
Oh, I bet you he had a box of Kleenex.
Probably a large one. Anyway.
But congratulations, and I just might pop down there.
All right, David, appreciate it, sir. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. If you're curious what we're talking about, we're having our 20th anniversary party. We are 20 years tomorrow is our birthday, so we're going to celebrate that. We're having a special show with special guests. I'm not going to tell you who they are so that you tune in, but if you are, like David's going to be, down in the south end of Halifax, and you're around the West End between 10 and 1 tomorrow, I encourage you to stop by and say hi and see how this thing all works. From in front of the microphone, I'll be on a stage there, and we'll be doing the show live. So I'm cautiously optimistic it's going to be fun, I'll say. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. We're going to take a break. Open hour continues on the other side. This is the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in a minute.
X.
Just a few minutes left here in the open hour. There are a couple of lines open if you'd like to get on. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Let's welcome Nicole to the show. Nicole, how are you?
I'm well, Dan. How are you?
Good. You're getting some love on the show today, too.
I am. I'm so grateful for it because sometimes I wonder if people can actually hear what I'm saying. So it's so lovely to start seeing this shift now in the HRM where people are like, no, like enough is enough. And I read this quote not too long ago, well, a few years ago, and it's, when you know more, there's no more. And so education is a huge part of empowerment so that people can begin to start reclaiming their rightful authority inside of these systems.
What's on your mind today?
So the taxes. It's insane that we're getting to this point, but there's a hidden word under the tax that nobody really knows, and it's the quiet part that lawyers and institutions don't want you to really understand, and that word is subrogation.
Oh boy, that's a big word.
It is. It's SUBROGATION, and anyone who's interested should look into it. If you're in insurance, you probably understand it, but ultimately what subrogation is when someone else gets stuck with a responsibility or burden that legally wasn't theirs to carry. So when you see it in insurance, for example, it's like usually you'll get into a car accident, you pay your deductible, your insurance company will pay you, but then in the back end, your insurance company is going after someone else for the money.
Right.
Now, what happens in counsel, for example, counsel screws up and they put forward a budget like this 10 million or whatever, 10% that they're doing. And instead of owning the mistake, for the fiscal mismanagement and the maladministration, they raise your taxes and they blame everyone else but themselves. And now you're stuck paying for their failures. Like that's ultimately what subrogation is. And when you really start to understand this term, it changed everything for me in terms of how I look at what's being presented in front of me and specifically how I communicate with elected officials. Because subrogation is that handing off of responsibility that someone should have. And when someone then hands off responsibility that they are ultimately responsible for, with that comes abdication of authority. And subrogation plus abdication equals loss of indemnity. So when people are talking about not being able to do anything about the counselors, there's 3 sections of the MGA I'd love people to go Google. And it's section 369, 377, and 380. And those sections, not the MGA, the Halifax Charter, those 3 sections have everything to do with how a counselor maintains their indemnification. And no indemnification means no seat. Because when you lose your indemnification, and Sean Cleary was on here, I think it was like December of last year, somehow thinking that he had some sort of immunity that extended to whatever decision they made, and it's simply not true. But when they are not standing in their responsibility and handing it over to other people and abdicating their authority of office, they don't have any indemnification because that indemnification is tied to all of these insurance policies that sit in the back end. So who's going to pay? Insurance companies are not going to pay for a darn thing that they don't have to pay for. And so it becomes this really interesting liability conversation. So I always look for subrogation, and ways that it shows up and words you need to listen for are when someone says, well, they advised me to, or the consultant said, or the province said. The first thing you need to do is really look at what is their jurisdiction, what is their authority, and are they abdicating that authority by pushing it off to someone else? An example that I have is an issue inside of the HRM where the HRM was refusing to enforce a bylaw, and Legal and Legislative Services, their response to me was, well, you can challenge this in court if you want. That was a full subrogation of their maladministration. They were refusing to administer a bylaw and therefore told me that I now had to financially go out of pocket to get them to do the right thing. And the moment you call them on that explicitly and say, hey, you've just subrogated your responsibility to me, and by doing that, you've abdicated your office, holy, do you watch people start to scramble. So the lawyers understand that word. People higher up understand that word. Counselors don't seem to. MLAs don't seem to. But the people sitting behind them that advise them absolutely do. So if anyone likes using ChatGPT, or they like using AI, or they like using Google, look up the word subrogation and start using that word in tandem with some of these things that are coming up. And you will absolutely start to see where people are stepping outside of their jurisdiction or relinquishing the authority that they have, and it will begin to change how you communicate with people. We're absolutely not powerless. There is absolutely many, many things that we can do, but what we have to do is stop getting confused by all of the words that they're throwing at us and actually just start looking at the structure that they are supposed to be working inside of and what they're actually legally protected inside of. And we can actually really start moving mountains if we can start working collectively on that.
Nicole, it's always a pleasure. I'm going to stick you on hold, and Vanessa's going to get those pieces of the charter out so that I can read them, so I don't sound like a dummy the next time we talk.
Wonderful.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Craig, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing, Dan?
Good. What's on your mind?
I guess just listening to everybody, I can tell there's a lot of passion, a lot of interest, and a lot of people who know the system isn't working the way it should. I'm just kind of curious about, you asked about cutting the budget.
Yep.
I would say quickly, I would cut the speed bumps. They don't do anything. You can drive over them at full speed. They're just there to make us think to slow down.
Right.
People are accountable for their own actions. We got to stop policing everything because, as I understand, they're quite expensive. But that's not my point. I simply want to talk about how we make things better, solutions, and accountability and bias. How do we see the bias in our counselor and our elected officials? For me, it seems like the system's not working as intended, and it's like we keep making excuses. Where's the accountability?
Fair points. They're absolutely fair points, and our elected officials are supposed to be accountable to the electorate, right?
Exactly, and that's what Gloria said. They are there. They're not supposed to have their own agenda. I mean, Tim Houston feels like he's just selling out the province and not fixing issues. We have power. Where are the issues that need to be fixed? It's not about bringing people here. We're very right. The city has holes in the ground in Dartmouth for these massive buildings, high-rises going up, and we're in a water constriction. There's no logic. We already are having an issue with water with the residents we have. We're going to expand the system. How are we going to fix no rain? I understand maybe that's a short-term problem, but it does seem to be trending a little more seriously for us.
It's happened the last couple of years, that's for sure.
Yeah, and if I tried to figure out what would it take for snowpack to actually recover us to where we were before we saw these issues, and it doesn't seem like we're getting those solutions.
No, we won't. I think that the yesteryear of these big snowfalls, I think they're gone.
I have to agree. I've lived here my whole years. I'm going to be 50 in November.
Right.
I've lived in Nova Scotia my whole life, and I've been paying attention my whole life. And it's not for lack of interest or not understanding. It's that work keeps us all busy. There's so many distractions in life, and there's a lot of fear out there. We live in a fear-based world. And if you are not brave and strong, you will be crushed by the fear. And it takes a lot of brave people to stand up what's going on and speak out. Because if you speak out, you'll get your head chopped off, as the expression goes. And I had a conversation walking through Shuby Park with two different individuals about the corruption in our city, and that is what they said to me.
Craig, I appreciate your call.
Thank you, Dan.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. That's the number. Remember that we're going to have a little bit of a different open hour today, and I appreciate you all for taking the time out and calling the show and imparting your knowledge. When we have these discussions and we start to hear the conversations about people waking up, people starting to pay more attention, I always, and maybe it's because I worked with them so long and I held them in such a high regard, that I always think back to Rick, right? And Rick would sit in this chair and he would sign off every show the same way, other than telling us the same bad time, same bad channel. But he would always sign off this show the very same way, that if you're not outraged, you're not paying attention. And that, I think, is paramount these days. And we do need to do it. We seem to want to, and I'm generalizing, but we seem to want to hold our elected officials to account when they're asking for our vote, right? But for the remaining 3.5 years, some people just don't even want to even gauge, right? They just don't, whatever. My taxes going up, that's all I care about, right? So that's why I think having these kind of forums like we have here on the Todd Veinotte Show, to get that out there, to get people thinking, not necessarily to yell and scream and point fingers and everything else, but to get people thinking about what's going on out there, I think is the most important part of what these open hours do. I mentioned we're going to do something a little bit different tomorrow. We are, because we will be live on location down at the Weston, Nova Scotian from 10 until 1. We're going to do the show live there. We're still going to do the open hour tomorrow, but it's going to have a little bit of a twist attached to it. I don't want to give away too much, but I hope that you can join us and you will engage in the conversation. 10 till 1, Weston, Nova Scotia. If you're down there, please stop by. I think we have a door prize even. And it's pretty good. And you can fill out a ballot to win that, and give us a wave and say hello, because I look forward to seeing you. Stopping, taking a break. Show's going to continue on the other side of it. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. Welcome back. Hour 3 of the Thursday, or as we call it, the Friday Eve edition of the program continues to roll along as we get closer and closer to that weekend. And I know I mentioned it during the open hour, and I just wanted to mention it once more, just so you didn't forget that tomorrow will be a very special edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. The radio station 95.7 News Radio is celebrating its 20th anniversary, and we are going to celebrate that with you, hopefully, down at the Weston, Nova Scotia, Scotian tomorrow. We're going to do the show live, which we don't do a whole lot of, so the host may be a little rusty at the live stuff, but we'll figure it out. And we've got a whole bunch of special guests that are going to be joining us either live on location or over the phone to help us celebrate our birthday. We're going to do a special open hour. I hope that you'll engage us with that. And we've got some cake, and there's a prize to give away, and it's going to be a fun day. We're going to try and have some fun on a Friday and celebrate our 20th anniversary. So I hope that you can join us. I got an email over the weekend, and for those of you that don't know, I've been a member of the curling community for many, many years, although maybe my membership has lapsed as of late, because when you work the shift that I usually work, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning isn't conducive to playing late nights on the rink. But I've spent a lot of time in curling clubs, and I've spent a lot of time within curling community, and when I read the email that there's a problem that's going to force the closure of one of the mainstay curling clubs here in HRM, the Dartmouth Curling Club. Of course, that one raised a red flag with me, and I know with many members of the curling circle. And one of those is on the line with us now, and it's Kimberly. Is it Picote? Did I say that right?
Pickett, yeah.
Pickett, close. I'm sorry, Kimberly.
That's all right.
This is for those that don't know what we're talking about. The Dartmouth Curling Club is having to close its doors because of. Is it a problem with the ice plant?
Yeah, it has something to do with how they make the ice making process. So it is a temporary closure. We're hoping it's just for the season.
Right.
But we did get an email on Tuesday evening to say that we are shutting down for the upcoming season, which was really, really upsetting and very unexpected. So a lot of us tried to rally and talk about what's going on. There isn't a whole lot of details out yet. I think they're trying to work through some options, but for now, my kids, who are 7 and 10, they're part of the Little Rocks program,
right.
And they were set to start next Saturday. So it was really alarming because we're all up in the air now. What are we going to do?
Well, that's just it. And you know, ice is. We talked about this with hockey yesterday. That ice is hard to find. Curling ice is equally as hard to find.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very costly process, is my understanding.
Right. So at this point, the club is saying that it's the season, the whole year, it's going to be closed.
That's what they predict at this point.
Oh,
yes,
my goodness.
That's what they're telling us.
Right. Did they? Obviously, ice plants are an expensive proposition. And you said you've reached out to the curling community, Kimberly. Are you trying to raise some money to give them a helping hand, or where are we at with that?
Well, we had asked some of the members of the curling club that are, higher up, like the communications personnel, the manager, etc. And they had said, hold off on a GoFundMe page for now because they're trying to work things out behind the scenes. But I don't have any details as to what that exactly means, but I'm just hopeful that something will come to fruition.
It's
because,
right, I get it.
Yeah, it's a lot of us that are displaced. I think the club has over 600 members that curl.
Wow.
I know that for my kids, they start at age 5. They have a Little Rocks program on Saturday mornings that is ages 5 to 10, and there's at least 35 in that program, and I believe there was over 65 in the juniors program, which is age 11 up till 16 or 18.
Right.
So that's over 100 kids alone just from our club that are displaced and don't know where to go. So there are 3 other clubs in Metro that they can look into.
Okay.
And I think some of us have started to reach out to some of those other clubs, but a lot of those clubs are already at capacity, or they may not have the same time frames, right, that will line up with our schedules. They also have started. I think some of them started a week or 2 ago. So it's very up in the air. Plus, to just kind of satellite ourselves all over the city, we're really going to lose that Dartmouth sense of pride and community. Right?
Absolutely. Curling clubs are more than just ice. They're a community, right?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the wonderful things about curling is you can start as early as 5 and you can curl for the rest of your life, right up to 99. It's such a social sport, and that's why for my oldest it's been so incredibly important for her, because she's tried other sports and nothing's really stuck with her, but she found curling 2 years ago, absolutely loved it, and we formed a little team last year with 4 girls, and they went on to do bonspiels and different games around the province, and they really gelled, and we were so looking forward to having another year to just, make that even stronger. And she's really going to miss that, because I already know that 2 of those girls have gone to 2 different clubs.
Right.
So it's really unfortunate. It's such a social atmosphere. It really is. And you can literally play, like I said, for the rest of your life if you want to. So that's one of the things I love about it, is it's something you can do, but then once you turn 18, it doesn't have to stop like so many other sports do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Kimberly, appreciate you raising this with us and putting it out there for everybody to kind of get their heads wrapped around. And as this progresses, can you please keep us in the loop?
Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That's Kimberly Pickett, is a member of the Dartmouth Curling Club, which is going to close for the entire year. And that's unfortunate. And as I mentioned, curling clubs are much more to the community than just an ice rink, right? They're a cultural hub. They're a social gathering and such. I hope that the city council and the municipal politicians that are listening to the program can find some way to help this club and get the ice plant back. Curling in Nova Scotia is part of the province, right? We've had some really successful curlers that have come out of here. Colleen Jones, right, and the Black Squad that we had on the air here from the Scotties last time around, and we've got the the Olympic trials are happening down at Scotiabank Centre this November, and what a shame would it be if that event is here and shining a major spotlight on curling and on Halifax if the Dartmouth Curling Club isn't able to operate because their ice plant is broken or there's a problem with it and they don't have the funds to make it work. It would be an absolute shame for that to happen. We're going to stop and take another break here on the program. When you come back, you likely heard the news yesterday. The RCMP giving us a bit of an update on the investigation into the search for Lily and Jack Sullivan. We heard that they brought in some cadaver dogs to search the area for those two missing kids. We're going to have a conversation with Staff Sergeant Rob McCarnan, who is the officer in charge of the acting officer in charge of major crime and behavioral sciences, about what they did, what they found, and sort of the timeline as to what's going on with the search for Lily and Jack Sullivan. That's going to be part of the Todd Veinotte Show when we come back. You're listening to us on 95.7 News Radio. We're back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. We got an update yesterday on the ongoing search for missing Lily and Jack Sullivan in Lansdowne Station up there in Pictou County, who have been missing since the 2nd of May. The RCMP providing us with an update as to some of the activities that they undertook over the last little while. Very pleased to have us join us on the phone today, Staff Sergeant Rob McCammon. Staff Sergeant, how are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm well, sir. I appreciate it. I know you're busy, and spending some time with us, I'm very gracious for that. Let's start with the timing of this latest search, Staff Sergeant. As I understand it, a couple of cadaver dogs were brought in from away from Ontario, I do believe, a month ago or so. Why is it at this point in the investigation that it was thought necessary to bring these type of dogs into the search?
Thanks, Todd. First off, the cadaver dogs that came from BC, British Columbia, our E Division RCMP, just to clarify that. So when Jack and Lily went missing, immediately following that, we deployed a number of different resources, including our Police Dog Services section, which has capabilities to find recent human remains and such. And over the course of the course of the last few months, worked through different reviews with our partners and stuff to make sure that we did as thorough a search as we possibly could. And the human remains detection dogs were part of that planning and execution process. So, and that's why they came when they did.
And they searched a rather extensive area.
Yes, they did. They searched the property around where Jack and Lily went missing from. They searched the pipeline area, the area where the pink blanket was located, and all the intersecting trails. It added up to about 40 kilometers in 3 days of work.
That's a lot of area to cover over a short period of time.
Yeah, our dog guys are driven. They get out and they get after it and get the job done. They do a good job for us. So a lot of good effort went in there.
So the release from RCMP yesterday said that they were unable to find any human remains. Were there any other clues or any other evidence found during that search?
I can't really comment on details of the investigation, but any of the information that would have been collected during that time will be looked at and assessed, and we'll take action accordingly. But we don't have any further to share with the public about anything that we've gathered in relation to the case at this time.
Staff Sergeant, you've received just a whole bevy of tips from the public. Are those still coming in, and are you still actively investigating those?
Absolutely. We are still receiving support from the community through tips and engagement with our investigators when they're seeking out information. And we continue to work on this file extensively. We've engaged units and programs and capabilities from across Canada with both the RCMP and other partner agencies. I couldn't begin to get into the list at this point in time, but we've identified any capability that could be available, and we vectored it in on this file, and we're taking full advantage of the capabilities available to the RCMP.
Now that we've done the search with the cadaver dogs and that search didn't turn up anything, is this still an active investigation? Are you continually having people out there, or are you acting on information as it becomes available?
Until we know the full circumstances of the disappearance of Jack and Lily, this will be an active investigation. We won't stop. We will continue to work through the information and look for any avenue possible to identify the location and bring them home. There's a huge public interest to understand how two children go missing in a situation like this, and we need to understand that fully, and we won't stop until we do.
There's obviously family and extended family that are impacted by this as well. Are they still part of the investigation? Are they assisting? How is that going?
The family have been cooperative with our investigators, and they are kept abreast of our different actions and the things that we do. So, yes, they've been cooperative and part of the investigation.
Staff Sergeant, if somebody hasn't already reached out to you and may have some information, what's the best way to get into contact with investigators?
There is a number of ways. They could call any non-emergency RCMP line and identify they'd like to provide information. I don't have the number right in front of me, but they could contact Crime Stoppers. They reach in through any direct way possible. Call our Northeast Nova Major Crime Unit. We will take information, but any non-emergency line would do, and the information could get to us. And, of course, if anybody would like to remain anonymous, Crime Stoppers is available.
Staff Sergeant, appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a good day, Todd.
That is Staff Sergeant Rob McCammon of the RCMP, who's the officer in charge, assisting officer or acting officer in charge of this investigation. Pair of dogs, 40 kilometers of ground. I haven't been to the site, but have been in areas very similar to that site, and I can tell you that terrain is not the easiest of things to navigate in and work around. And I know that there's been police and there's been search and rescue in there, and I know that the community's been in there looking for these kids, and people are desperate for information as to where missing Lily and Jack Sullivan are. And as always, if new information comes available to us, then we will pass that along to you here on the Todd Veinotte Show. Just very quickly, a couple of emails from people asking questions about what's happening with the program tomorrow. Don't worry, we'll be on the air. At least we hope we'll be on the air. We're going to just do it a little bit different. We're going to be live on location down at Weston, Nova Scotia, so you can watch how the magic happens, so to speak. We'll have just a whole bunch of guests. I don't want to kind of ruin the surprises, but there's some fairly big names that are coming. There's some alumni from the radio station that you may have not heard from some time. I know there's a couple on the list that I haven't spoken to in some time, so I'm very much looking forward to that. And I just have to say, and to get it out there, that Vanessa Veinotte has been the lead on this and getting this show up and running. And without her, it would be an awful boring 3 hours. She's been working like crazy to get everything done and get the guests on here. And we're going to do our very best to keep it entertaining and have a little bit of fun. It's going to be a little bit different. It's still going to be the Todd Veinotte Show, but we're going to have a little bit of fun tomorrow. It's a celebration. It's a birthday party, so we're going to do our very best. And again, it's open to the public. So if you want to pop down there and say hi or grab a seat and watch as things unfold, that's what it's all about. We'll have some cake and a door prize for you that you can fill out a ballot for. And I know I reached out to a couple people yesterday that said they were coming. People called me up and sent me emails, said they were going to come as well. So we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow down at the Weston, Nova Scotia. We're going to have to take another break here for the news at the bottom of the hour. But when we come back, of course, the Halifax Mooseheads are getting ready to head back to Scotiabank after an overtime win earlier against the defending champion Moncton Wildcats. They're getting set to open up. I think it's a 6-game homestand. As I mentioned, the Olympic curling trials are happening at the Scotiabank Centre in, I think they're November, and the Mooseheads are front-loading their home games. So they've been playing at home a lot lately, and that will continue tonight. And, of course, there's a game this weekend as well. Gareth McDonald, our good friend and the voice of the Halifax Mooseheads, and I'm going to say it. I'm going to go on the record and say it. The very best in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Gareth will be joining us just around 12:45 today to tee up that game for you. And when we come back, Mayor of Yarmouth says Nova Scotia's municipalities must be a part of a transportation corridor if there's any discussion with that. It's been a while since we've connected up with Pam Mood, who is the mayor down in Yarmouth, and she will be our guest when we come back. You're Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. Hope you're having a fantastic day. We're getting close to the finish line, right? We're almost there. The sun's out. It's a little cool, but it's another nice fall day here in and around HRM. Came across this article posted on the CBC site. It reads like this. The head of the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities is welcoming a bill that would allow the province to designate any public road as a transportation corridor, but stresses that local governments should be consulted. While municipalities have raised concerns in the past when the provincial government has stepped into their jurisdiction, where have we heard that before? Federation President Pam Mood says she's pleased to see action being taken on important transportation issues. Mood said the bill, which would require provincial approval for development near important roadways, has the potential to speed up work, but municipalities where corridors are designated should be part of the discussion. Joining me on the telephone is the aforementioned Federation President, and that is Yarmouth Mayor Pam Mood. Pam, how are you?
Well, I'm great. Did I say all that stuff?
You apparently. I always ask this question when we talk to Mayor Mood. How are things in Yarmouth?
Everything's excellent here. One day at a time, flying through. I would just love to see some rain, like we all would.
Right, absolutely. We certainly need that for everybody's sake. Pam, the transportation corridors. Tell me a little bit about why that this is a good decision for the province to have that kind of authority.
Well, it's a good decision with a couple of little let's check these things off. So I'll start by saying, as a province, as communities, I mean, no one can't be supportive of transportation, the pieces that cover making sure emergency vehicles get through quicker and, the ability, especially when you travel around HRM so that it doesn't take you an hour to get there, getting goods transported, more quickly for, economic development and business and everything else. So it's good in that way. What we're saying is, and also I would say that, for the government to do this for me, it's proactivity. And they're saying, we may not need this, but if we do, it's there and it's designated and, you just can't come in and build something there or do something there because it may be a transportation corridor. So, those are the positives. And for me, they're all positive as long as, the communities are basically at the table having the conversations around what happens before it happens on these corridors. And we also, with the province, NSFM has an agreement for all municipalities. It's a 12-month notice. So if anything's going to cost us any amount of money, we really need those 12 months to everything from budgets, forethought, planning, everything is on the table with regard to those 12 months. So, it's a good thing. Just need to make sure a couple things happen with it.
Pam, no concern that the province will have the ability to act even if the municipal council and their constituents don't want that in that area?
There's always that concern. And I would say the concern comes from, we love our autonomy. We're a level of government. We want our autonomy. But I will say this, some would argue with me, but, the province isn't trying to, ramrod anything through a community. What they're trying to do is set up these transportation corridors so that, as I said before, everything can happen more quickly, more efficiently, all those things. So always concerned when they come in and say, we're going to do this. But with the notice and the forethought that it's going to come and the reason it's going to happen, I think we can be a little bit, I want to say graceful, a little bit easier, feel a little bit easier about it. Not everybody will agree with that, Dan.
Pam, I think we can see the benefit here in having that authority, at least in HRM, where there's a lot of traffic and a lot of things like that. But in a smaller community like Yarmouth, would this be any kind of a benefit there, or would this be something that is more geared towards the bigger cities?
I think a lot of it is geared towards the bigger cities. But what happens? This is, as I said, proactive. So in the future, I don't think next week they're going to go out and start doing, rail lines through the entire province. We can't afford that. But, if they ever did make it down to Yarmouth, I would say, first of all, come to Mama. I can use all the transportation links I can get.
Right.
But if they ever got here, coming through a small community, we do. We have planning concerns and all those things, but they're not just going to not consider that. That's, we have to consider everything. I think they understand planning and why it is the way it is. But we have to match that up with what do we need, transportation-wise, and how do we set ourselves up for success? And, having those designated is one way.
I've had a few people call up and say that, the biggest mistake that the province made was ripping those rail lines out that went down to the South Shore and down towards Yarmouth. Wouldn't it be something if we could get that link back?
Oh, gosh. Look, right, that would be amazing, although that's where I walk now on the rail trails. Like anything, a bus, a train, a plane, I'll take them all. But we have to have transportation, and we're a more populated province. They've been working on that where, economically, how do we work and where do we sit, not just with the rest of the province and with each other in Canada, but with the rest of the world. Like, how are we getting our goods moved as quickly as possible? And again, people, how are people going to move? So let's set up those corridors, cross our fingers that the province understands. And I believe they do because we talk to them. They've been, great in having the conversations with NSFM. And they understand our concerns for sure.
Pam, wouldn't be transportation talk and having a conversation with you without talking about that ferry down there. Obviously, the province spends a lot of money on that every year. Is it still a benefit to your community and to the South Shore?
Oh my gosh, yes. It's not just the South Shore. Remember, they're coming in here, but they're heading to Halifax and Cape Breton. Like, that's when you talk to them, that's where these folks are going. So tens of thousands of people are in Digby and Annapolis and Halifax and all the way up through. So this is, I always say, we're the welcome mat for the rest of Nova Scotia. But you wouldn't take that out any more than you would take the 104 that gets us from New Brunswick to Nova Scotia. You just don't. It doesn't matter what a highway looks like. It costs money, and if we want people and businesses to run efficiently, then we need the links.
Pam, always a pleasure.
You too. You have a great day.
Thank you. Everything's great in Yarmouth.
Yahoo! It is.
That's Mayor Pam Moo, the mayor of Yarmouth. It's an ongoing joke between Pam and I. Every time we talk, she just tells me that everything's great in Yarmouth. Who's to argue? Probably is. We're going to stop and take another break. When we come back, the Halifax Mooseheads back in action tonight as they return home for, I think it's a 6-game homestand, a conversation with our good friend and play-by-play announcer Gareth McDonald. When we come back, you're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. We're back in minutes.
Axe.
I've often said October is my favorite month because a lot of things happen in October. It's, of course, October baseball, which we're very focused on this time around because the Toronto Blue Jays are having a postseason run into the American League Championship now, and that begins on Sunday. The Halifax Moosehead season is off into full swing. The National Hockey League season kicked off this week. We saw last night the Toronto Maple Leafs kicking off their regular season. And I know that if you're not a Leaf fan, you really don't care, but I know there's a lot of Hab fans out there. Used to be one that occupied this chair that would have been very sour this morning after the opening day loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs with William Nylander a three-pointer night and Austin Matthews with a goal. So is there any questions to be asked about the Marner-less Leafs this time around? And, of course, the National Football League is underway. CFL playoffs are underway. The college, if you're into college sports, college football, it's a bevy of things going on. And, of course, it is the most wonderful time of the year. And it's always the most wonderful time of the year when I get to talk to our next guest, and that is my good friend and our play-by-play announcer, the best in the queue, my opinion, and that is Gareth McDonald. Gareth, how are you?
I'm good, Dan. I'm good. I mean, two empty netters for Matthews and Nylander. Let's get a hold of ourselves.
Well, hey,
again, you did pick up the win. I get it.
But it's the points count, right? So
the points count. They don't ask how, right?
That's right. There's no asterisk on those goals at the end of the year.
No, that's for sure. Hot start for the Leafs. Your Leafs.
Go Leafs, go. There
you go.
Right?
There you go.
Lots of questions
Absolutely.
this year.
No, there is.
Lots of questions about if the Halifax Mooseheads are getting tired of playing at home, because holy smokes, they're off on another 6-gamer here, and that starts tonight. Gareth, we've talked about this before, but to start with a whole bunch of home games can have its benefits and also have its drawbacks.
Yeah, no, it certainly can. I know we have certainly touched on that in the past. And I think right now, I mean, you look at where the Mooseheads are at in the standings. This is a season. I mean, we came into it not really knowing what to expect. And I don't think it was just me feeling that way. I think that's probably a feeling within the organization as well, because there are just so many young players on this team. I know we've touched on it before. There was so much buzz in the city and within the fan base last year with the first round series win, first 16 seed in the history of the Q to win a playoff round. They defeated Drummondville in the playoffs last year. They returned a lot of members of that team, but there's a lot of new blood within the organization right now as well. You look at the first rounder like Malik Latalien, second round pick like Cam Manella, a couple of young guys playing big minutes in the top 4 on the blue line. Oleg Kulibiakin coming in the CHL import draft. Yazoo Mentionin as well. Still such a young team here, and I think you're not really sure what you've got. Just one overager on the roster. I think what you do know is you've got a young team, but you got a real talented team as well. And how they were going to fare, though, within the landscape of a changing hockey ecosystem with that NCAA rule change last year. We know there's a lot of free-agent signings out of the U.S. in particular within the league and in other markets. So with some older players in other places, you're not really sure how this young team's going to fare. But, I mean, right now, 4-2 on the season, you got to love that start. And I think having a start like that, playing at home, you're definitely you're not squeezing the stick as much as you might otherwise. So they start another 6-game homestand here tonight with Rimouski in town, and I mean, I think you certainly have to like where you're at right now. It's just been a fantastic start here for the Moose.
One of the questions I had, Gareth, going into the season was in between the pipes, right? We lost. We've had a couple of really standout goaltenders that have been in that position over the last couple of years. And as is the life in junior hockey, things and people move on, and we start anew, and we bring others into to fill those positions. But the last game that the Mooseheads played in the Avenir Center against Moncton, I worked that game with you, and boy, Owen Brisson really stood on his head during that game, and I think that just builds confidence right from the crease right out.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. And yeah, I think the term that I've been using, I think it's something you probably heard from other people as well, the coaching staff. I know Brad McKenzie's mentioned it a couple of times. I mean, fans here in Halifax have frankly been just spoiled with goaltending over the last few years. Matthias Rousseau, you could make the case that he was not only the best goalie in the queue during his time with the Mooseheads, might have been the best goalie in the entire CHL. And he gets dealt last year, goes to Moncton, ends up winning a Gilles Courteau trophy. He had that pedigree, that name recognition that made him a trade target of the Moncton Wildcats. But of course, when he was dealt, Jacob Steinman comes to Halifax, and I mean he's the best goalie in the queue. Then he's the CHL goaltender of the year. He was absolutely exceptional. Such a big part of that first round series win over Drummondville that we talked about earlier. But just massive shoes to be filled, massive goalie skates to be filled here, if you will. And yeah, I mean Owen Brisson, he was kind of in a way a bit of an unknown. He was one of those guys with the NCAA rule change last year. He left the BCHL, left the Chilliwack Chiefs. He ends up joining the Shawinigan Cataracts, who owned his rights, and didn't play a ton there, I guess, after coming over. I mean, certainly he made a few starts. Took his record 8-4-3, 905 save percentage. Certainly pretty solid numbers there for the sample size, but again, still a bit of an unknown. Hadn't really been given that opportunity to take the ball and run with it in the queue, and he's getting that chance right now here with the Mooseheads, and I mean, certainly making the most of it. I mean, you mentioned his game against Moncton on Sunday. You can throw in the game against Baie-Comeau last Thursday night as well. I mean, just absolutely solid. So he's won 4 in a row right now. He's got a goals against under 1 in those last 2 starts. Save percentage just a shade under 970. He's been pretty much unbeatable. We know. We touched on it a few times throughout the broadcast. It can be a little hairy when he decides to play the puck. That's
wanders a little bit out of the crease.
Hey, but credit to him. He's got the confidence to make those plays, and again, that can save the decor. It can help you avoid a couple of big hits each game, but it has led to a couple of tense moments here and there. But he's more than made up for it with some dynamic stops. He's been just so fun to watch, and definitely one of the best stories here in the early going of the season.
What does Rimouski in town tonight to face the Mooseheads down at Scotiabank? The game time 7:00. Pre-game show starts at 6:30. Gareth, what does Rimouski bring to the table this year?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, they had a real good start to the season. It did come at the expense of Baie-Comeau, a team the Mooseheads beat last week. Moose had a 4-1 win over the Drakkar. They're the only team in the queue still looking for their first win. They're kind of Rimouski's nearest rival right now. And so they picked up a couple of early wins in the season. Rimouski actually won their first 3 games here to begin the year. But I think over the last little stretch, starting to come back to reality a bit. Reality starting to settle in. This is a team where you'd expect some regression after the season they had last year. They hosted the Memorial Cup, so they knew they'd be in. That was a season that they had been building for quite some time. Brought a guy like Matthew Catafor in a big-time trade. Former Moosehead, he came over during the offseason last year. They brought in Eric Smateko from St. John. I mean, the list went on. Jonathan Fauchon, who led the queue in scoring last year, he came in from Blainville. So, of course, you got to start to restock the shelves and the cupboards after making a lot of moves like that. So they've had to sell off some pieces. They've lost guys to aging out, and I mean they're in a way kind of in the early stages here of the rebuild. I'd expect them to be pretty busy once the trade period rolls around, but Still some good pieces left. Still have a lot of speed. This is a quick team. Again, some good pieces left. They've got some great goaltending with William Lassell in net, but definitely a much different looking team than the one they had last year with all those players moving on. But I think for Mooseheads fans, there will be some familiar faces, some guys they'll be excited to see. I think the fan base will be happy to see Jack Martin and Lou Levesque back in the building here tonight. They were the pieces that went to Rimouski last year in the trade that brought Quinn Kennedy to the Mooseheads, and that's been such a massive deal for the Moose. Quinn Kennedy's been their leading scorer since coming over in that trade, but we know both Lou Levesque and Jack Martin, they were popular members of some of those previous Mooseheads team, big parts of some previous groups. And again, a lot of love for them in the fan base. So they'll be honored tonight. It'll be fun to have them back in the building. And just looking forward to the game and see if the Mooseheads can string together another win.
Looking forward to the game tonight as well, Gareth, and looking forward to the call. Pre-game 6:30, puck drops at 7. Gareth will be here bringing you the action live. Have a good show, my friend.
Hey, thanks a lot, Dan. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
That is Gareth McDonald's, the best, by far, announcer in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and we got him all season long. The Mooseheads will play host to Rimouski tonight, and then on the 11th, which is Saturday, the aforementioned Moncton Wildcats will return to Scotiabank Centre to take on the Mooseheads, looking for a little bit of revenge after losing in overtime last weekend. And we have a pair of tickets to the Saturday night contest between the Moncton Wildcats and Halifax Mooseheads. If you want to go, caller number 7. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Mooseheads hosting the Wildcats Saturday night at Scotiabank Centre. Good luck, and hopefully you'll get a chance to cheer on the Moose as they secure themselves another win. Don't forget, special broadcast tomorrow live on location, Weston, Nova Scotia. I hope you can join us. Until then, everybody, please be well and be kind to one another.